presentation. Because my time is very limited, I have to leave fairly shortly, so I wanted to give you all an opportunity to discuss. So I'm not going to prolong this presentation much longer. I will just sum it up for those people who came late, that what makes Islam different from all other religions is that its concept of God is a unique concept. It holds that God is unique in all of his aspects. He does not share his attributes with his creation. He does not have the attributes of creation, nor does the creation have his attributes. And to give him any of the attributes of creation is to make him less than God. Because just for some people will argue, well, don't you believe that God can do anything? Of course. We will normally say, yes, God can do anything. And then somebody will say to you, well, couldn't he have a son? Now, when we say that God can do anything, actually you have to qualify that. You can't just say, yes, God can do anything. No. We say God can do anything which is fitting with him being God, fitting with his divinity, which does not in any way compromise his being God, the unique. Because if you're going to open the doors to God doing anything, then you are caught in the philosopher's argument, which the philosophers like to throw on those who believe in God. That is, the philosophers who don't believe in God. They will ask those who believe in God, do you believe that God can make a stone which is too heavy for him to lift? Can God make a stone which is too heavy for him to lift? Well, now if you said that God can do anything without any qualification, then you must admit that God can make a stone which is too heavy for him to lift. And once you admit that, then you are admitting that there is something, it is possible, there is something in creation. It's possible that God can create something which is greater than he. But one of the fundamental attributes of God is that he is the greatest. There is nothing greater than he. So, when we say that God can do anything, it is anything which is fitting with him being God, the greatest. So, from this concept, in Islam alone, we find that God is worshipped purely. In all other religions around the world, you will find that though the people who are worshipping in this religion believe that they are worshipping God, the fact is, when you look at what it is they're actually worshipping, the fact is that they will be worshipping one or another aspect of God's creation. Either they'll be worshipping a tree and saying God is within the tree, or an idol saying God is within the idol, or an animal saying that God is within the animal, or a man saying that God is within the man. Only in Islam is God worshipped not through his creation, but worshipped alone, purely, in the purest possible sense. And that is the summary of this evening's presentation on my part. And inshallah, if you have any questions, there are some papers which have been passed out. Your questions may be written on there, and we will try to answer as much as we can within the next half an hour, inshallah.
Thank you very much. As we said, that there will be a nice kind of start there. Have a lot of facilities and projects, but hopefully the person will be able to be subject to our limited in time. Thank you.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
I would like to start a question. Maybe we'd like to tell the other something in the room, but I'll start the first question. I would like you to tell us what was the religion of Jesus Christ, peace be upon him, and what did he teach? Thank you.
The religion of Jesus, we believe to have been the religion of Islam. Islam meaning submission to the will of God. Jesus taught his companions to submit to the will of God. There are so many statements that can be extracted from the Gospels where Jesus is quoted as saying, it is not as I will, but as the Father will. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Variety of places where you find Jesus indicating to the people that it is not about man's will, but about submitting to the will of God. And as such, what he taught, in essence, is no different from the teachings of Islam as was taught by the last prophet, Muhammad, may Allah's peace and blessings be upon him. There's a question here. Meditation is also one of the best ways of worshiping God, like prayers. Why Islam does not talk about meditation? Is it prohibited in Islam? Well, if we look at what is the essence of meditation, wherein one concentrates one's thoughts on a concept or a sound or an object, what we find is that within the Islamic prayer, the formal prayer, which is done 5 times a day, there is that concentration. However, it is not an extreme concentration to the point of becoming oblivious to the world around, because Islam believes that worship is a part of and parcel of human life. That when one is involved in worship of God, one should not extract oneself from the world in which one lives. So, though there are meditational aspects in the worship, man is still required to be conscious of the world around him. Question, there are many Muslims around the world who do not know how to read the Quran in Arabic. And because of this, they cannot pray alone to observe the 5 times prayer, obligatory prayers, except on Friday, where there is an imam who leads the congregational prayer. Is it permissible in Islam for one to pray in his own dialect or language, even if he does not recite the prayer in Arabic? When a person becomes a Muslim, or when a child reaches the point where he's being taught the prayers, he is taught this basic chapter of the Quran, the very first chapter known as Surah Al-Fatiha, which is in Arabic, which forms the core of his prayer. If one does not know the Fatiha, the core prayer, one may say different words of remembrance of God, like Subhanallah, Walhamdulillah, in the prayer until one learns this much of the formal prayer. And the reason why the formal